Hello and welcome to another episode of this BizDev video series. Before we dive into the details of the sales system, I want to take a little bit to talk about the tools available to run it and which ones might be best for you. So for companies that run on Google Workspace with, Gmail and Drive and Calendar and things like that, then my top recommendation is a CRM called Copper. And the reason for this is really simple. Copper has the best integration with Google Workspace and the Chrome web browser of any CRM that I've used. It just meets you where you're already working. And that is really important because a CRM is only as good as the information that gets into it. So the CRM that best reduces the friction points is the one that I recommend you use. And when it comes to Google Workspace and Chrome users, Copper is just simply, it's unmatched, at least for what I've used. I even had a client who was super, like the super creative director type and hated business tools. It was like an allergic reaction to CRMs or something. But after a couple of weeks with Copper, he told me he actually liked it, and to use his words, it's because I don't have to use it to use it. So I don't know, I thought that was a pretty good CRM testimonial for people who probably hate CRMs. But I don't know, so it just has to meet you where you are. Get information into it easy is the most important variable. But other variables that you might be considering when choosing a CRM is the kind of business that you're running. If you are in a volume business and you're working thousands of leads at a time, where it's all about scale and numbers, then Copper is definitely not the right tool. For that kind of high volume activity, you're far better off with something like HubSpot or Salesforce, because those platforms are designed to handle scale so much better. But that's not the kind of business that I do, and that is not the kind of business for my clients and who this series is for. What I focus on and what my clients focus on are relationship-based sales, and that's what Copper is built for. So for me, it's not about casting the widest net possible. It's about building trust with fewer clients who pay higher fees and then they grow with you over time, right? So my goal with clients is actually to bring volume down. I think you should have less clients, less chaos, and try to get more value per relationship. So for that, you're going to want a CRM that is built for relationships and not just kind of raw bulk spamming. And if for all those people not using a CRM, then either, I don't know what to say, you are so good that the phone rings more than you can handle, or, and I hate to say this, you're simply not serious about business growth. Because a CRM is how you create sales with intent, with accountability, and with action, and with clarity for the whole team. Transparency so everybody knows what everyone's doing. And if you do it right, it should be your single source of truth that everyone can operate by. Now, if you're not on a Google Workspace platform and you're using something like Microsoft 365, for instance, or some other kind of setup, then Copper is definitely not your best choice because, like I said, it's really only built to run inside of Chrome and on Google Workspace. But there are other CRMs you might consider, like Microsoft Dynamics, for instance, or like I said before, HubSpot, Salesforce, and there are dozens more. There are a lot of good CRMs that you could choose. And because honestly, most CRMs do the same basic thing, right? They manage contacts and companies and pipelines and reporting. So it's my philosophy that you should pick your CRM first by how well it can integrate into your preferred business workflows and tools. I actually recently had a client who uses a production management tool called Timmy, which, by the way, is a really nice project and delivery kind of tracker specifically for commercial production companies. It's a project manager for commercial production. And we were able to set up a pretty cool Copper integration so that their delivery team's production process and updates automatically flowed into a dashboard inside of Copper. So the business team could see production updates in real time inside Copper without ever having to go to Timmy or asking people for updates. That is the kind of integration that keeps everyone in sync without slowing the system down. Because when sales and the delivery and the marketing are all feeding to and from one place, that is when you have a real kind of a business operating system. Okay, let's talk about price. When it comes to Copper anyway, I strongly recommend the business plan on Copper, but that would be prohibitively expensive if you put a lot of your team on it. But it really is the only plan that meets all the needs that I think are required to do effective sales. But it would be a lot of money per month for everyone to have that. So every client that I've onboarded to Copper was able to do mix and match plans, which means your external facing business folks can run the full business plan while your internally focused delivery team members can use the lower tier basic plans like your heads of production, project managers, producers, etc. This has worked really well for my clients, and it's made it more affordable for more of the team to participate, which makes the whole system actually work and work better. It shouldn't be a single kind of person operation. The last thing I'll say, and this is a little bit hard for folks, is that you'll need to use Google Chrome and web-based apps for all of this to work. You'll have to abandon any native desktop apps that you use, like Apple Mail, for instance. I know that this is a pain point for some people. I go through it often, but it's one that is worth requiring of your team and for everyone to adopt, because the performance of the team is just so much better on a web-based system. It does take a little adjustment, some more than others, but on the other side, it is faster, smarter, more transparent, and teams love it once it's adopted and finally understood. You simply just get better collaboration, better accountability, and better clarity. Okay, that's my setup for kind of choosing a CRM. Like I said, this system that I have will work with any, but I've chosen Copper for the reasons I just mentioned. So let's dive into Copper and I'll show you how I've set this all up. Okay, here is your Copper system. I have a demo account here that I'm going to show you, and I've populated it with a bunch of names and contacts, and this is what we're going to use to get detailed into the pipelines and how the kind of the sales system works inside Copper. But I thought I should also, if you do plan on using Copper, that you should probably understand a little bit of the nuances and how it works. And I'm just going to give you just a high level view of setting it up for success, at least from my point of view, and some just general guidelines around the settings and how to tailor it really for you. So I'm going to dive into that here now, and then we're going to get into the details of the sales system and the pipelines coming up. So you download Copper. This is kind of what you're going to get here is this web view. What you're landing on here is this dashboard feed view. If this was populated with all of your stuff, you would see your emails, you would see your calendar appointments, you would see tasks that you have to do, you would see contacts that Copper recommends you adding to Copper, and all kinds of other information that would be here. So this is kind of just the general dashboard page. But then you get into the side here and you'll see pipelines, contacts, and tools. And when you get into pipelines, you'll open this up and you should see something kind of familiar, right? Marketing, engagement, development, sales, delivery. It's all right here. And there's more pipelines that you might be adding to, more project-based ones, reoccurring things and stuff like that. But for the most part, we're just going to talk about these ones here. So if you were to go into any of these, you would see probably what you would see kind of in any CRM. You have a pipeline, then it's full of stages, and there's different information with cards and all that kind of different views of those activities and those opportunities and those projects. That same is true here. So I'm in the marketing pipeline now and have ideas. This is where you're kind of putting those together, drafting, scheduled, published. Like I said, we're going to get into all of this more in detail in a little bit, but you can just kind of get familiar with what's going on here, the engagement and the different looks there, the development and how that looks. This is a saved filters area. I'll talk a little bit more about this, the sales pipeline and how that looks, and then your delivery pipeline, right? So we'll use the sales pipeline as an example here, kind of walking through some of this. So I can see the pipelines here. Over here is another view of those pipelines. I could create a new pipeline just from here in this moment. I could just go right there and start a new pipeline if I wanted to, from scratch or from one of the templates that they have there. I could, over here, I would see the different stages like I was saying. The reason I want to focus on the sales pipeline is because this is the one that really matters, right? This is the one where there's money involved. And I should say this is the only one that should have money involved, because if it's in development, there should never be money in development because it should be into the sales. And if you have a project that's in sales and it doesn't have money that's going to be attached to it, then it's probably not ready to be in sales and should be in development. We'll talk more about that later. But this is really good because you can really see, right, for this instance, for instance, I have 21 opportunities and I got $2.7 million in opportunities, and I can see how much each opportunity is each one of these stages. So it's really great view of what's happening, not only with the projects, but the money, and be able to forecast out. I can switch from this board view type of thing to a list view if I want and see things that way. If I'm in this board view and you clicked on one of these cards, you see the details of what's going on there. Of course, the name of the campaign that you're going to be building, the project that that it is, the stage, the primary contact, the company, the value, the really important information on when you think you're going to land this deal. And then you can have all these other fields here. These are all custom fields that I've made. I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second, that you could add to your card and find out what's important. So we'll walk through all this, but that's all the details are in right there. Then you have the activity for all of these. So any emails, any meetings, any contacts for the primary contact for the company or related to this opportunity all show up here. When it was created, who owns it, what changes have been made, everything is here. It's kind of cool too, is when you import this information from another CRM or retroactively from a spreadsheet or whatever, that legacy information catches up, so it kind of retroactively populates it. It's fantastic. Emails, everything kind of shows up here. And then anything that's related to it, right? The tasks that are related to this opportunity right here, and you can see that right there as well if I click there. So the contact that's with it, and I can click on Tony, and then Tony would pop up there and get Tony's contact information. I can see who's Tony's related to and the opportunities. Everything is related. It's very circular, very easy to get around to everything. So if I'm back here at this card and I'm in this related area and I'm looking at task and I see the contacts and everything that's going on here, it's all here. It makes it really, really easy. And if you want to look at it in list view, which some people do, prefer this one, or you can move these around so there are different columns. You could change the size of them. You can, kind of cool thing here is you could do inline editing too. So I can look at this card view, the same view I saw before, but if I want to change the value of it, I could just do that right here. I don't have to go to anything else. I could change who it's owned by, assign it to a different team member, sort by all of these things. It's really straightforward. So that's this kind of area here. Here's another sort view if you want to do that. You can kind of click on and do that. Filtering is something that you're really going to get good at, because this is where you can start populating this area over here. These are saved filters with all kinds of really useful information. For like the sales pipeline, for instance, it might be who is the owner of the job. So you have a filter for owned by, and you can just click on that information. So if I'm here and I'm seeing all of these cards, all of this activity, right, and it's maybe too much, I can just see, like if I went to all opportunities, right, this would be everything for years and years and years of projects that you've won. And if you try to go through it, it'd just be so much. But if you just want to see the stuff that's open, you could click on that saved filter and you just see what's open. Or you just want to see what has been won in 2025 as a custom filter that I can see, and I'm only going to show me what's done in 2025. And you just do that here, and you can click, the status one. I could change it to, let's see, if I want to change it to, what would be another one I might want to do, owned by, and I'd put in a different person. Let's say I had somebody that was a different name. I'm using unassigned, but let's say that was somebody else. Then I could save as a new filter and say, Sarah, and I would only see jobs that are Sarah's jobs, right? Really, really useful for seeing information really quick and only focusing on the things that matter to you. So that's that. When you're in opportunities, you can also see when you're searching, this is a universal search bar up here. So if you search for something, it searches all of Copper, and it'll bring in information for opportunities, contacts, and everything that might have gone on with the thing that you're searching for. And in here, you're only searching for the very specific thing. So I might be searching for like, God, what was the name of that one pipeline? No, or that one opportunity. It was innovation. Oh, there it is right there, right? And I'm only looking in there so I don't get the universal search. Pipeline reports. This is, we're going to get to a whole thing around reports, but this is kind of a useful quick look at reports. It'll show you what's going on here. One of my favorites is to search by owner to see who's doing what kind of activity, and you can have when you put in the close dates, that's what informs all of this when you think you're going to land something or when it did land. Forecasting is really useful, so you can really see month to month, or you can look at it by quarter, by week, whatever you want, to see how much money you think you have coming in over what period of time in the future. So very fast way to look at it, and you can see the details of all those down here. So between this kind of view here, I'm in sales, open opportunities, and seeing this quick look about the opportunities and how much they're worth and how much they're worth in each stage, along with the pipeline reports there. And then we'll get into more other kinds of reports, some custom reports that we can build out. It really becomes powerful. So just want to give you a familiar look about what you're seeing here and all of this with the pipelines view. All right. So then you have the contacts. Same thing, really. You don't have the board view, it's just the list, but you'd have these people here. You have the filters that you might have people saved as. You can have these here. If I have Abigail, for instance, I can see the details of Abigail, and I can look down. All of this would be populated with Abigail's information. All the activity that I've been engaging with Abigail would show up. The whole company, everybody's stuff with Abigail would show up here. You can see who said what, when, where, how, and anything that's related to Abigail. So Abigail's with Road. We have a few things that we've done with Abigail in terms of like sales, right? So we won a job, it was in the sales, and I could see that up here. We've won $185,000 with Abigail in the past, but we have $167,000 in an open opportunity, and I can see that that's right here, it's in sales. We have engagement and development that say won, and this kind of ties back into what those pipelines are, right? Engagement is someone you've never met. So in this case, I kind of created a scenario where we probably introduced ourselves to Abigail at some point. Abigail was in the engagement pipeline. We said hello. We might have shared something, got engagement back. We asked for a meeting, had a conversation. Turned out that was a win. Asked for a meeting. They said yes. Abigail said yes. So that's a win. That's when you won in that pipeline. And then it goes to the development. And that's where you go for finding a fit, and then trying to understand the lead score and trying to understand information about goals and objectives. And then you're kind of working that all the way through, trying to come up with ideas that are going to help Abigail in their career and in their job and what their responsibilities are and how you and your services might be able to do that. And if you do that and the timing is right and the opportunity shows up, then you've won in development and it moves to sales. That's when the numbers start showing up, the opportunity is real, and you're developing along to trying to close the deal. And then it goes into a project-based kind of opportunity or a project-based system, and that would be the delivery and some of these other things. So all of that's kind of in here as it relates to a person, just right there. I can see all that information. Like once again, if I was in these opportunities and I wanted to say like, what's the open project that we have, to Pursue the Impossible campaign? I'd click on it, and I'm in the card that would be in the pipeline, the sales pipeline over here. I'm just seeing it right here, and I never had to go to it. So it's really convenient in that way. And here's all of the different activity that would be related to it, and all the legacy information, all the current information, engagement, and anything that's going on with that needs to be done. It's all here. So really nice. Once again, you can do inline editing and change people out and all of that kind of stuff. Really useful. Same is true for companies. It's the exact same scenario. With contacts, and once again, you can really move these things around and change things a bit. You can go over here and decide what columns you want to see and which ones you don't want to see. it's really customizable. You can do, big edits. So let's say I want to take all three of these people and I want to email them. I could just do that from here. I can click on this and I could say, join us for the party, right? And I'd say, hey, and then whatever, put in, I think it's right here. Yeah, first name, that kind of classic stuff. And you can do pretty robust emails, in here, and lots of, graphics and, pretty well formatted emails, and send it along. And I could see that it's going to go to Adam and Abigail and Akelia and all that kind of stuff. And I could send that along. I could put links in here and then it'll track the links, like if they clicked on it or not. It's really valuable. This is how you want to send emails if tracking is really important to you. Send them through this and Copper will track all of that really, really well. So all your kind of classic, pretty much it can do what a Gmail can do, sending it from here. Or I could do like a big group edit. I want to tag a bunch of people at once. You can kind of do that here. Various other things that you want to do. You could look at, create different kinds of filters for, let's say I want to know what would be something here. I want to filter by, let's see, Netflix, and see what kind of comes up here. So I could say, let's create a filter for all the people that work at Netflix. So I just filtered by company. I have tags here. I want to turn that one off. That was from something before, so I got more, right? You can do multiple filters on these things. Save it, make it public so everybody can see that. And now I have all my contacts or all the contacts, but if I just want to see the Netflix team, I could just see that here, and then I could just email them all at once or send them something. It's very versatile, all of that kind of stuff. It's great. So that's that. When you get into tools, you could do automations are really good. So like email automations. Just recently I did an automation. October 4th is Crew Day, Crew Appreciation Day. So I sent an automated email out to a bunch of production companies a couple days before that says, hey, don't forget to Crew Appreciation Day is coming up. Don't forget to thank all your crew. That just goes out automatically based on, criteria that I put in there, like checkboxes. Workflow automation. So if this then stuff happens, so you could calculate commissions for salespeople. If a job moves from a certain stage or a certain pipeline to another one, tasks get made automatically and assigned to people with whatever you want to have on there. It's all in there. The forms are really good. You can create forms on your website. So if anybody signs in on that or sent a message you, it automatically can go into Copper, and then I can even create a pipeline entry if you want that. But if you already have forms set up, that works really well too. Super easy. Squarespace, Wix, whatever. Track emails, that's here. In this view, if you're just sending emails through your standard Gmail, it will track them, but sometimes it'll say someone opened it, and other times it'll say a very specific person that opened it. But if you send it through the Copper system, then you get really good tracking on that. And then we'll get into some more custom reports there too. So that's just a little bit about what you see. But the most important thing about Copper, when you download Copper, you're going to get prompt to install the Gmail, LinkedIn, Chrome extension, and you're really going to want to do that. That's what makes this thing hum. That's what I was talking about, that integration that makes this all work together. So when you have it in, it'll be right here. What you'll see is this right here. And so an extension, you're going to want it pinned there. It'll look like this. So you'll have Copper CRM for Gmail and LinkedIn. That's the extension that you want to install. So you want to install that. You'll get prompt for it right away as soon as you download Copper. And do that. And once you've done that, you'll see this little C here for Copper. You want to keep that pinned. And then you have all of your tabs that you're working in your Chrome browser, right? So if you're in your Gmail here and I'm in my inbox and I get an email from George Carlin, right? And he says, I heard about you and I want to learn more. I'm like, oh, this is really great. I could just add George to Copper right here from my inbox. I could add a company if it didn't populate. Oftentimes when you get an email from somebody and their company's in there and their signature and all that, Copper will scrape that, put it in here for you. Sometimes it's right away. Sometimes it might take a little while. I can decide what kind of contact type George is. So is he a lead? Is he a client? If he's given us money before, it's a client. If he's never given us money, he's a lead. But there's other things that could be too: a freelancer, a vendor, a crew, talent. All of these are customizable. And then I put all this information in there. It'll scrape for LinkedIn. Copper does a really good job of going on the internet and pulling other information in. So I added George to Copper just from right here, right? So George is in there. And if, let me go back here. There's all the contacts that I had in there. I wanted to see George again. Is it going to let me pull it up from right here? Well, let's just say I didn't click somewhere else, but George is right here, right? Like I said before, and I wanted to add an opportunity for George. I could simply go related, add opportunity. I could say, what's he looking here? Something around a campaign for 7 words, campaign, create, and I could put that wherever that's going to be. So right here, it's probably sales because he said there's an opportunity. He's talking about wanting to meet with us. A job was mentioned as the stage that's going to be in. I could add more information here if I wanted to. Maybe George put a budget in this email. I could write that budget there and all of that. I could put in more information in these fields if I want. I hit save. And if I go to Copper, I would see that George is going to be in here. Let me just go to all contacts and I could go, there's George Carlin. We just added him from our inbox. We never went to Copper for that. And if I were to go into the sales pipeline and I were to go into jobs mentioned, and let's see if he was in here. So there it is right there. So I was able to add that here, and if I wanted to move it over, I could just move it over and things like that. That's the beauty of being able to work without ever having to go to the Copper app. You can just do all of this from here. I could create tasks and assign it to people if I wanted to. I could manage about 75% of all of this just from my inbox, never even actually having to go to Copper. And I can go to all of the different other areas that I'd want to as well if I needed to. Same is true for your calendar. You're on a meeting, there's a bunch of people, you click on that appointment and you just add those people to Copper right from your calendar. So anytime you see this, and you'll see this everywhere you go within Chrome, once you install it, you get this panel over here and it's really useful. And then a new feature that Copper just put out that actually is really cool is that it also works with things like LinkedIn. So I'm just in my LinkedIn tab, and once again, this is the extension that's open, and I have someone here, Kevin Knutson, creative director for Mod Pizza. This is someone I actually know. He did a podcast on my podcast and talked all about how to get his business. So if you want to learn about how to get Kevin's business, check out my podcast. But Kevin's here. I want to add Kevin to Copper. I'm in LinkedIn. I'm not in Copper. I just go like this, add to Copper, and it's created right here. And I get it'll pull all kinds of information. Some of it comes right away, some of it comes later. The description is here. All of this kind of stuff's here. If I've had other activity, it would all show up here. I could relate it to other opportunities, other things. This might even auto-populate once the email shows up in here, and then it's going to connect to other people that might share the same company email domain, for instance. I could create an opportunity right here and just start, like I might go, hey, let's just call it Kevin Knutson, and I'm going to do it in engagement, right? Like I don't know Kevin, but I think I might be able to help. I'm super curious about it. I'm going to put him in engagement, and I'm going to put him on connected on socials, because right now I'm going to reach out and I'm going to connect to him and do all that kind of stuff. And I might start adding some information. We'll get into what this stuff is later, but then I'd put it right here, and Kevin would be in Copper now, and he would have an opportunity that would be an engagement pipeline that I'm going to start that whole process. And I've never left LinkedIn at all. I've stayed here the entire time. So, and then another cool thing, historically, I've used third-party apps for doing this kind of work and adding it to Copper. Surf is an example of that. But Copper has really done a good job of stepping up and creating these features. And they, the find email. So if I want to find Kevin's email, I can just click on this, and it will search for Kevin's email. So it says here, sometimes it takes a little while to find it, but then it'll say, hey, got it, and it'll put it in there for you. Sometimes it's right away. So it's a really cool thing that just makes CRM work so easy. This is the integration that I thought was really great that I think is really great about Copper, and what you all should be using it for. So that is really critical. When you download Copper, download the Chrome the integration, and get all of this set up so that you can do these types of things. A couple other things here. When you're setting up Copper, go here and customize Copper. This is where you're going to tailor it for your specific company, and everything that you do that's unique to your company, and everything, your process. A couple things that I'll just kind of walk you through. You want to have this checked so that it's synced into your calendar. So when you make tasks, it shows up on your calendar, and for other people when you're assigning tasks. Really important. Importing data into Copper, super easy. I've done so many transitions from other CRMs and spreadsheets or whatever kind of systems people have, and making it in here. It's super easy to import, folks, and get it right. But it's really important that you do companies first, then you import contacts, then you import opportunities. And as you're trying to clean up data that's in all kinds of different places, use AI. AI is so good now. I use GPT for this, where you can give it down here, it'll show you the templates for how you can import stuff in, share that with GPT, give it your contacts in whatever kind of spreadsheet form you have, and say, put it in this format, make it look this way, answer these questions, whatever. And GPT will pretty much get you almost all the way there every time. It takes days worth of work and puts it down in just like hours. Really, really good. This is where your company information is going to be. This is where you have your seats and where you assign who's an admin, who's a user, and things like that. In your preferences, let's see, email settings and templates. This is really important to have all of these things synced so that you can make sure that all the information is passing through. I have my preference set so it opens my default email client, which is Gmail, which is what most people are going to do. You can work within Copper if you just want to do that. And a little quick note about email and privacy. By default, everybody can see everybody's emails, but there are some exceptions to that. So, for instance, if somebody's not in Copper, then that information is not synced and not shared. So if I'm emailing somebody that's not clients, they're not in Copper or whatever, no one else can see that. What would be another example? If you are on the same team, like you're having an email conversation with a boss or another colleague, and you all share the same domain. So for me, Keblas.com. If I had 3 people and we're all Keblas.com and we're all talking to each other, no one else can see that. It's not synced. It's kept private. And then you can also, if you're emailing something and you want that email to be private afterwards, you could just mark it private, and then no one can see the details of that. Actually, with the exception of the account owner. They can always see the details for those things, but they can really limit whoever else can see it here. There's a lot of opportunities if the owner wants to allow the admins to have visibility or not, or if the admins and the owners want to allow the user to decide who gets to see what, they can do that here. So the point of a CRM and a system like this is transparency. That's the point. Everybody's seeing everybody else's work. That's how you get accountability, and that's how things happen, and happen really well. But sometimes you want to control that a little bit, and that's where you can do that here. Notifications. I turn all of these off except for the ones in reminders. I keep these ones on, and the rest of them I turn off. Is my preference for that. Really cool feature is teams. So let's say you have a sales team that is really limited in what they do with the company. They're out there just representing you or something. You can give them a seat in Copper and then create a team of salespeople and they would have very limited visibility into anything else that's going on in Copper. Maybe you just want them seeing the sales pipeline or some things in the sales pipeline, or only jobs that has their name on it, and things like that. But you can see what they're doing, but they can't see what everybody else is doing. Create teams like that. You can create teams based on geography, different offices, a variety of reasons why you would have different kinds of teams, a delivery team, for instance. And you could control who sees what in those teams. It's kind of nice. The most important spot that you're going to want to focus on in the settings, though, is the manage field on records, right? So you're going to be right here, and this is where you tailor everything for the kind of custom fields and naming and nomenclature, and anything that you have going on is right here. So if I want to add a contact, right, to Copper, this is the field that I would have here, and I'd put in all this information on these fields that are in this entry form. I can make that entry form right here. So in manage fields on records and contacts, and then I can just name this, and I can move things around. If I want it to be different, I could create, add a section like I did here called contact information. I can move the whole section around, and whatever you want to do, you can just customize this to make it to be whatever you want for the kind of contacts, in this case, that you want to have and how you identify them. Same is true for companies, and then pipeline records. You'll see the same familiar pipelines here. So the 5 kind of major ones. If I clicked on sales, I would see all of the things that go into a sales pipeline, which might be different than what would go into, let's say, the engagement pipeline, right? This changes. All these fields, whether they're connect fields or drop boxes or multi-select or whatever it might be. There's a bunch of different ones. You just kind of go here, create a field, and choose what you want, and give it a name and add it to this engagement pipeline in this instance, and it would show right up. You have a whole bunch of them that you use across different areas. You can just activate them for different pipelines if you want. Very, very customizable. And this is where you want to make it so it's really tailored for you. And then the same is true for tasks. Just walking through here, the related section. This is like when you're on the card here, like a development, and I click on this, and I get this little section over here. This is what that shows. That's what related is, and you can change that around. For the most part, it's pretty good. You don't really need to change anything. But you can do that if you want, and what's visible on that based on contacts and companies and pipeline records and things. Manage activity types, you don't really need to do much with. This is the kind of interactions that get counted based on who clicks on what. So the basics are here, but you might have some custom one, like Zoom calls might be a very specific one for you for some reason. You would just add that as a create new activity type, and then put that down here and have that as one of the options. Tags are really good, so being able to really work with tags and have people tagged for like events or whatever it might be, and then quickly go into those people, and maybe you want to add another tag to them. I could just go here and do a bulk edit and create another tag for those folks. Change tags, remove them, all of that kind of stuff is how you would do all of that. You can rename some of the records over here. I do actually, when you download Copper, you're going to notice that contacts is actually person and persons. I changed the name of it from that to contacts. It's more natural for me. Everything else I leave the same, but a lot of people change a lot of things. They will talk about pipelines and opportunities, and that they'll change those to leads, actually. There's a variety of ways. Whatever you use, you can kind of make it custom to you. Sources, where things come from. Lead status is kind of interesting. For the most part, you won't use leads, but think of leads as like a bunch of people who you got their contact information for, but you don't know anything about them. You have no idea if they would even be any good or not. You could turn on the leads function here, and if I go to contacts over here, you see it's just contacts and companies, but if I click that on, then leads shows up. So leads is like this inventory, this mass bucket of people that you have no engagement with, you have no relationship with. Maybe you sponsored a conference and you as a result of that, got 1,000 contacts. You might turn on leads and throw them in leads to deal with them for another time, to slowly convert them from leads. Then when you're ready, go through that, convert them to contacts, and then start the engagement process and all of that. But for the most part, I don't use leads, although sometimes I do. Contact types, this is really important. So not only do you have contact types for, the kind of business, if it's a lead, like I said, they've never given you money, but if they haven't given you money, they're a client. But then there's other types there that you might have for how you keep track of people. Copper isn't just about business development. It's about a whole system that you might have working for you, from bringing in new work to delivering on that work. This is where you'll do some pipeline work, some stages. So these are the pipelines that I've built. And if I wanted to change that, I would just go here and I could change all of the names of it. I could add a new one. I could move them around. This is a project type of pipeline. But like I said, it was in sales. This would be a sales opportunity pipelines, keeping track of numbers and money. You can start adding things like win probability here. So that's when you start to see, maybe you saw that in a couple spots. This is where that's rooted from. So kind of figuring out what works best for you on that. Loss reasons. I used to use 4 basic, either price, creative, timing, or trust. Those are the 4 reasons why I usually lose a job. One of those 4. Email automations, we talked a little bit about that. Workflow automations, this is the same spot, just you're inside of it. The integrations is really where the magic happens with Copper, though. There's so many good ones. MailChimp is really good. QuickBooks, DocuSigning, Docs, and then Zapier makes everything possible. And if you don't see something you want, you're just going to click here, view all. It'll take you to this marketplace of different opportunities, and you can kind of click on different ones that you might be interested in. Productivity, I've created integrations with almost all of these. It's very straightforward, very easy to do. But that's where you make that happen. And if there, for some reason, isn't a really good system that's already made, you can do that with API keys, right? You can generate an API key, give it a name, whatever, Monday, and then copy that, go to Monday, put this in there, API keys, get them talking to whether, map the fields, and everything's now working together. It's really straightforward, really easy. I've yet to run into anything I couldn't do. Yeah, and then there's just some other stuff here. It's all pretty straightforward. So I think that gives you a pretty good overview of Copper. Like I said, what's happening next is the magic of the sales system and what we're going to be getting into with these pipelines here. But I just thought it was important for you to get a kind of a sample of what Copper is, get familiar with it. Sometimes it can be overwhelming to see it right away, and kind of like, where do I start? So I just thought I would give you this kind of overview to get into it. So hopefully that's helpful. If everybody wants details on certain kinds of things, maybe I'll do some videos on very specific tasks or changes or settings and stuff like that down the road. But for right now, that's just an overview, and we're going to get back into the sales stuff now. So, all right, there you go.